Hello, Commander community. How are you all doing today? It is your ever-loving host, Paul the Commander Theorist, and I'd like to take a moment right off the bat to thank you kindly for joining me for yet another Magic the Gathering video. So it's Friday, July 13th, gonna timestamp this because I'm cool like that, and we've just gotten confirmation of the names and the themes of the 4 new Commander 2018 Precon decks, which is really cool. We have the Exquisite Inventions, an Artifacts Matter themed red and blue deck. Nature's Vengeance, a Lands Matter black, red, and green deck. Adaptive Enchantment, an Enchantments Matter blue, white, and green deck. And Subjective Reality, a Top Deck Matters black, white, and blue deck. And that's everything we have at this time. No actual cards will be spoiled until July 23rd, which means we still have a few weeks left until actual spoiler season, but we also have gotten some stunning new artwork for this set, which you will see as some backgrounds in this video. But the thing I want to talk about most are some of the cards that I would think are good to pick up at this time before they begin spoilers. I wouldn't say it's worth dumping money into the expensive stuff like Sensei's Divining Top for that subjective reality, but a few less than $10 cards I think would be pretty good to pick up right now. First of all, we have 1 2-color deck and 3 tri-color decks. This means that color fixing is important as the 2-color deck is the artifact deck and in red-blue. It means it doesn't quite have the same kind of ramp that the decks running green will have, but artifact decks do generally tend to have quite a bit of ramp in their own way. So for those who are considering getting one of the 3-color decks, I would seriously say that Chromatic Lantern is definitely an option you should consider. This is good to help the mana bases of these decks, as obviously Commander Precons will not be containing optimized or even tuned mana bases. For the Artifacts deck, I definitely feel like the new Joyra Weatherlight Captain from Dominaria is a grossly powerful card to include in the Artifact deck. Artifacts are now part of the new umbrella category of historic cards, and so with every artifact you'll cast while Joyra's in play, you'll get to draw a card. And this could be a great engine to help get your game going, and I would also suggest Joyra's Familiar, which cheapens the cost of historic cards. It's also an artifact, so it may be relevant. Both of these will really help your deck work better, and are both relatively cheap at this moment. If you got the Breya deck from the 2016 installment, you should already have plenty of good cards for an artifact deck to really tune this deck with some new powerful options. I will say though that I feel like this is going to be my least favorite of the Precons this year, just due to the overusage of Izzet and Commander artifact decks. Just not a big fan. Next up, we have the Nature's Vengeance deck, which is a land-themed deck. I'm not too sure about specifics, but I feel like this will be along the lines of what like a red-green Omnath Locus of Rage or an Azusa Lost But Seeking deck would want to do, which is play a lot of lands and get a lot of value from them. Adding black to the deck would just mean that we get some new cards for this build, as I really don't know of any black cards at this moment that would benefit from landfall style abilities. If you saw the list of cards I hope to see reprinted in Commander 2018, Exploration might finally get its reprint in this deck, and I'd be really excited to see what we're getting with this one, as Jund colors tend to be very powerful in Commander. Prosh! I definitely recommend getting some land cards that you will want to use to tune the mana base with, such as the multi-lands from Battle Bond, perhaps some of the lands from the Battle for Zendikar block with the basic land types, some powerful landfall creatures, and a card called Perilous Forays, which lets you tutor for cards with the basic land types on them. None of these cards are particularly expensive, but they're definitely worth picking up now while they're on the low, because I feel like once spoiler season starts, if these cards are going to make it in the deck, they're going to shoot up. I'm not finance savvy, so don't take my word for it. The next deck is likely going to be my favorite, the Bant Colored Adaptive Enchantment deck. So as many of you may know, one of my favorite commanders is my Karametra deck, heavily inspired by Melissa DeTora's build from Game Nights. The deck features a series of cards called Enchantresses, which give you a card draw with every enchantment you cast. This promotes a very powerful engine, and with the various abilities that enchantments provide, your opponents are going to be hard-pressed to remove them if they can do so at all. The problem, and what I suggest for this part, is not quite in what to prep for with the deck, but in what to expect to see. I seriously feel like they will include at least some of the 4 main Enchantress cards, perhaps not the new one from M19, but as to which enchantments we will see, and if there is a new tangent that this strategy will take, I'm not sure yet. I do like the idea of getting some good, potent enchantments and planning ahead. Again, Aura Shards is a great possibility to see reprinted here, as is Exploration. Opalescence and Starfield of Nyx are both great to give life to your enchantments, helping you switch gears from defensive to offensive. Sigil of the Empty Throne is good, although I highly expect it to be included in this precon. And while I do personally look very forward to having an enchantment-themed commander in Bant colors, again, I'm really not super on board with some of the themes that these decks are coming with. Artifacts, enchantments, we've had decks like this before, maybe in different color combinations, but I'm willing to postpone my judgment until I actually start seeing what we're getting from these sets. And lastly, and perhaps the most intricate sounding deck of the lot, is the Subjective Reality deck, which features a focus on what's the top card of your library. Now, this is a very obscure sounding theme. Not a lot of cards in Magic have synergy with what your top card in your library is in a way that I feel a commander deck is viable to build around that strategy. Now, I've heard some comments around this Subjective Reality deck that it might in fact be a mill strategy, just worded weird. And while nothing other than these vague descriptions and comments are available at this time, I'm certainly prepping possible strategies for both. Should you want to build the mill route, I highly recommend utilizing the card Mind Grind, which is perhaps my favorite mill spell of all time. The famous Mind Crank and Duskmantle Guildmage combo is in Esper colors, which is going to be tasty to utilize. Consuming Aberration is also a powerful option for this kind of deck, and I would totally contemplate running this in a non-mill deck just for the absolute threat it functions as. Guilt Feeder is another neat little option here, as it has Fear, making it hard to block for non-black cards to begin with. But then if it isn't blocked, which is something very easy to accomplish in Commander, the player being attacked will lose 1 life for each card in their graveyard. Suddenly this is a big threat. Now, again, I could be wrong here, and this deck can go in a completely different direction. Prior incarnations of Esper colored decks often feature some heavy control elements, or an artifact sub-theme. Yay, artifacts. Or, in the case of something like Oloro, some Pillow Fort shenanigans. So we'll have to see what we're actually looking at once spoiler season begins. Now, one thing to note is that in every year's precon decks since 2013, Wizards has introduced some mechanic that affects either how a commander deck can be built, or it has an impact on gameplay via that deck's commander. Back last year, in the Tribal decks of 2017, we saw Eminence become a thing, an official thing at least. We had Oloro and Derevi. Commanders like Edgar Markov become a huge impact on the game, and he never even had to touch the battlefield. 2016 brought with it 4 colored commanders, as well as the partner mechanic, offering a plentiful assortment of combinations of colors between the 2 compatible commanders. 2015 had experience counters, which made some powerful interactions with those counters, such as Marin's Graveyard ability or Azuri's Pump ability. 2014 gave us Planeswalkers who could be commanders, and 2013 had a mix of cards that messed with the command zone, like Oloro and Derevi, and cards that took advantage of repeat castings of commanders. I'm curious to see what sort of mechanic they're going to introduce this year, and what sort of impact this is going to have on gameplay. I personally would love if these commanders weren't as splashy as some have been in the past, and had a little bit more of a power level to them. We see every year at least one deck blowing out the competition, such as Edgar, such as Atraxa, as Marin, as the Derevi deck, and so on. And my personal bet for this year is that the Bant colored enchantment deck will be the deck to get. And so now I want to open it up to you, the viewer. Hello. What sort of expectations do you have for this year's decks? Are there cards you anticipate we'll get? Are there kinds of strategies that you predict we will see? And do you think that Wizards is going to deviate in the main accepted direction that these decks that are already, in a way, decks in Commander, do you think they're going to go something new? Or they're going to play it safe and give us some sort of underwhelming kind of safe road builds? Let's talk about it in that comments section below, shall we? Remember to like this video to let others know it's worth a watch. Subscribe with notifications to stay up to date with all new videos, as we have a lot of Commander 2018 coverage to keep up with this year. And last but not least, if you'd like to help the channel up the ante with the content quality in terms of maybe doing some more live video, we do have a Patreon going on that you can help support your favorite Commander creator. And as always, I thank you for stopping by. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see all you guys, gals, and non-binary pals in the next upkeep.